Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and to my side, a very busy beaver over here, Brian E. Roach.
Oh,
Brian.
Did we start? We started. Okay, I'm sorry. Pardon my busyness.
I could do this without you. In fact, an automaton or maybe a monkey with a balloon may suffice.
You cannot replace me with a monkey.
So, anyways, I should probably look up what an automaton is. I hear these all the time.
You know what? You got to be very careful doing that Google search.
Oh yeah, you could you could totally
I'm just saying.
You could totally end up like we do not have an OnlyFans. I'll just put that out there. So, but anyways, yeah, the automatons were the old. It would be very good for what's that word that they use now, like the new grunge kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of it, but it's making things that are like old or vintage, look kind of like new and hip or whatever. And obviously, I'm not hip to it because I don't know the darn word.
Retro?
No, not necessarily retro.
I don't know.
But anyways, it's almost like the film noir. You know what I mean? Like something like that, like a Blade Runner or something like that. You see those type of things. Anyways, I digress. We got things to talk about, and I don't know. I don't really want an automaton to my side. Anyways, it would be probably just as distracting as you anyway. But there's some. I got a little bit of a smile. Just because I don't know if you get the same type of rumblings that I get out in your neck of the woods, but there's some unhappy campers from that mistake up north on the lake crying about referee calls and, how they didn't beat the backup quarterback this time. They knocked out Patrick Mahomes and still couldn't get it done. And that two of the world's
smallest violins. For those who are just listening and can't actually see me playing, and I'm just going to use my favorite new phrase, ZFG. Zero blanks given.
Yes, I like it. I think I had mine was a NZFG, which was a negative, or just NFG, negative. What's given. Behold the field where I harvest them. You'll see it's barren. So that's the way I feel about the Browns fans. They're probably not tuning in to heckle anymore anyways. They're crying. They're crying all over. I mean, I got quite a few friends that are there, and it's like the reason why I'm smiling, and I understand the Steelers lost to the Browns. Anytime you get the people in the comment sections here, you get my friends in that here, when we talk about bad officiating, bad calls, could have went this way, could have went that way, injuries. All we've been told is basically STFU, shut up. You know what I mean? Every team's got to go through this. The Browns didn't have starters, this and that. Well, here you go. I'm gonna take the pot and give it to you, Mr. Kettle, because they both look the same, and now you understand where we've been coming from. So. But you know what? I don't feel bad for the Browns at all. And in fact, had they won that game, you would never hear the end of it. But we heard for 11 weeks how the Steelers were the most overrated, undefeated team of all time. And it's like, okay, it took for you to have – here, we could do this the same way. And this is kind of like one of the things I'm going to go over a little bit later too. It's like, oh, you had to defeat a 38-year-old Ben Roethlisberger who threw 4 picks and had a snap go over his head and still nearly blew the game. And then you would have beat a backup Chad Henne after you were dirty and knocked out Patrick Mahomes. And, there wasn't a flag on that play either, I don't think. But they were talking about the Rashard Higgins play where he gets hit. And, it's a helmet to helmet. Blah, blah, blah. It's a 10-point swing. Ha. Oh, well. Welcome to what we call Riverond.
Yeah, look, I'm going to put it this way. What do we always say after we complain about the refs? We can complain about the refs for an hour at a time, but what do we say when we're done with it? Didn't lose the game. The refs don't lose you your game.
Well,
and if you think they did,
Jesse caught it.
Stop it.
He still caught it. I see worse catches in the league.
99% of the time, the refs don't lose you the game, and the refs did not lose the Browns their game.
Oh, there's a meme.
Had plenty of opportunity with a Chad Henne-led Chiefs squad to try and come back and win, and they browned it up.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Feeling a little dangerous, are you?
I am. Eating my blackberries, and I'm feeling dangerous.
Yeah, let me. I was going to expound on what you were saying. There's a meme though where they're still showing like the Des Bryant catch, and then they're showing all the ways that referees had screwed up teams over the years, and like somehow they had conveniently forgotten about the catch in Minnesota with the Saints and the no pass interference, which then led to somehow there not being pass interference. The Steelers missed the playoffs in 2018 because the Saints somehow the referee crew must have owed them one or something on the pass interference calls going the other way. If you recall with Joe Hayden.
Yep.
Joe Hayden twice, or there was another one. One was Kamara, and then there was another one, I think, too, in the same game. It was just some of the worst calls I've ever seen in my life. I don't know that anything's been as bad as that for this season. I mean, we had a lot of complaints about holding calls, and that was just in general across the whole league. In fact, I've been still laughing at it in some of the playoff games I've been watching. I'm just like, my goodness, these are some really bad calls. And there was a pass interference call. Was that week 16, week 17? It was the Vikings, and it was like one of the worst calls I've ever seen in my life, too. So it's not exclusive to just the Steelers. But, of course, I can't feel bad for Cleveland because I don't care about Cleveland. So, anyhow,
I don't either.
Moving on, I know some of our fan base out there is, what do you want to say? I guess how would you feel? Ben Roethlisberger has come out saying that, reportedly, I guess, he said that he is advocating for Juju Smith-Schuster to return next season. I understand, and somebody was in the comments on Facebook on one of the other things I was talking about. I got my 2 wish lists up, Brian, and we'll be discussing those probably next week, I think, or later this week. All depends on our schedule here, but Juju's on my wish list, and I'm not a cap expert, and people are like, well, hey, I'll defer to those who know a little more about this type of stuff. I'm like, well, don't defer to me. I'm going to just take some guesses on what they can do, and I'm not really sure if there's a whole lot they could do. He may be priced out of this. I know players always say they want to stay where they are, but this is a business.
Juju's mom don't say that.
Oh, no. Juju's mom says go get paid with the money bag emojis. So if it could be done, would you want Juju Smith-Schuster back? I say yes.
Sure, why wouldn't I? He's a tough kid. He produced, what do you have, like 700,000 yards in that last game? Look, he produces when used appropriately, and he's a tough kid. He showed that this last season, not just in that last game. There were games where the only reason they got first downs was because Juju pushed them over and got those first downs. Would I like to have Juju back? Sure, absolutely. If they can make it work, why not?
Yeah, there's some people out there that are saying no. He's the next
whine
AB.
About his TikTok stuff.
The next AB. He's not throwing furniture out of the second floor. He's not trying to paint his old helmet a different color to sneak it on the field. He's not showing up in hot air balloons. He's not showing up in a Rolls Royce. He's not throwing Gatorade containers on the sideline. He's not calling his former quarterback all kinds of different names or anybody names. He's not putting a kibosh on trades. He's not leaving games early. He's not. Where do I end with this, by the way? I'm not sure where it is.
I'd just say he's not AB. He's not Mr. Big Checks. He's not Mr. Big Chest. He's not whatever that guy's
Ronald
name
Ocean.
was. Ronald Ocean.
No,
he's not that.
No, I'll tell you.
Juju.
You know who he is, Brian? He's the next Hines Ward.
Oh, well, there you go. I'll buy into that.
Would you disagree? Hard-hitting, dependable possession receiver, plays with a smile on his face.
Yeah, I see that comparison, absolutely. We
Yeah.
sort of said that when he was drafted.
Oh yeah, we did, and especially because of his willingness to block.
Yeah.
And he's a fun guy, still a young guy, so it's somebody I would invest in if they can. I understand they're $21 million under the cap. We don't know the cap number yet for this upcoming season. There's a ton of teams that are in purgatory here, and there's I don't know what all you can do with Ben Roethlisberger. We'll look at that. We'll see if there's somebody smarter than us that has some ideas. I think I said Ed Bouchette was the one who said they get even by Ben just not playing next year, retiring. That's one way. I think you're probably looking at Stephon Tuitt or Cam Hayward, some of the highest paid players, doing something, extension, restructuring again, kicking that can down the road on money they'll be owed. Guys leaving like a Vance McDonald or a Joe Hayden may free up a little bit, but I don't know how high up the priority list. When Ben speaks, this organization usually listens. I don't know how far up the priority list I put Juju. I've been I banged my drum. We'll talk about this in a second with the OC as well. But I had banged my drum already for a Mike Hilton and/or Cam Sutton to come back, even if that means losing somebody like a Joe Hayden, because you got to have a little bit of the youth movement and not start wipe the slate completely clean here. I might put Juju somewhere right behind that, but I've always been of the opinion he's just going to cost too much darn money, and somebody else like Bud Dupree is probably out of reach as well. I mean, I guess we'll have to find out. The real unknown is that they were already there's monies that are available. The CBA opened some stuff up. That's the reason why they were able to get like Eric Ebron and Derek Watt and some of these guys this past offseason. But then the whole COVID thing hit, and a lot of teams lost some revenues, especially live gate attendance and things of that nature. So we have literally no idea. This could stay the same. It's unpredictable. So, I can't speculate too much. It's just I am of the opinion if he wants to go get paid, when does he get paid? You know what I mean? And when does that count against the cap? We've seen some real funny money. We've seen some funny money business. We've seen the Eagles do it. And now probably can't, signing Wentz. But another team, I mean, where did the Chiefs get any money? They had less money than even the Steelers did, and somehow they still add guys like a Tyrann Mathieu. They make some trades. Frank Clark, give Patty Mahomes a huge contract for 10 years or whatever the heck it was. It's like, yeah, how are you spreading that all out? I know the guys in the back rooms will say the cap is a myth. So we'll see. Omar Khan hasn't flown the coop yet, and he is the cap czar for the Steelers. So if he's still there, we'll see if he can continue to put on his wizard cap and work his magic.
Yeah, look, I don't know. I'm the first one that goes, I don't know how the cap works. I don't understand the cap, and I don't care about the cap.
This is a cap.
Right here, yeah, that is a cap. And I also think the cap is to a certain extent a myth, because there's just a lot of ways you can play to get around it. There's a lot of things you can try and do and accomplish. What I don't know, is the intricacies of all those players' contracts, right? I don't know if there's any more money that can be pushed down the path for Ben. I don't know if Cam Hayward or Stephon Tuitt has enough flexibility in their restructuring to be able to do those things. I have no idea. I can look at the contract, but that doesn't tell me everything that I would need to know those things. And you don't want to, we don't want to be in Bobby Bonilla situation where we're paying Ben 27 years from now either.
Well, I don't think they're allowed to. It's a certain percentage that you're allowed to spread out over. So if they signed him and extended him 2 years, and then let's say with the knowing that he may not play the following two, they still may owe him like $20 million a year or something like that versus the dead cap there.
Yeah, I mean, they can easily find a way to do it if Ben's like, I'm going to play one more year. If Ben's like, I'm going to play 2 more years, whatever it is. When Ben hangs it up, they can eat some of that salary during those following years because they're going to have a rookie probably, and he ain't going to cost a whole heck of a lot. Even if they don't have him the first year and they have a mid-level, a veteran quarterback, they'll find a way to do the things that they need to do. Will there be folks that may leave that we don't want to? Probably. Always happens every single year. So we just have to be ready for it. That's all.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about with that too, as far as the makeup of teams, how they change from year to year. Yet another topic to talk about when you start getting into some of these conversations about Bill Cowher versus Mike Tomlin, which is tabling that for another day. I could get blue in the face again. Seems like every offseason I have to cover this. Steelers have an offensive coordinator now. Was Matt Canada the right hire? The professor brought up something. I give him credit because I didn't have the thinking cap on, and it was like light bulb goes off. James Conner did an awful lot of good stuff with Matt Canada, at Pittsburgh, and I don't know. Does that mean that might be something to entice Conner back? I don't know. It's another guy that's going to cost more than what he was previously being paid. Even, here's something I want to throw around too. Mark Ingram gets released, right? And we all saw it coming because he hadn't been active, and he's like 31, going to be 32 years old. And everybody's like, well, if you can get him cheap. Why would they want to come and play for cheap? Some of these guys don't want to be part-timers either. They want to be starters. The only way you get some of that leverage is if right now you're the Chiefs. Previously you were the Patriots. You're like a perennial front-runner type team. And I guess the Steelers are probably in that sort of conversation there, but it doesn't mean that everybody's looking to play for a discount, banging up their bodies. They might just say, I'm going to go retire. Don't forget, some of these guys got some insurance policies on their bodies and Lloyd's of London and stuff like that. So,
yep.
There's things like that factor into this too. And they could cash out depending on their investments. But I digress. I'm not talking about Connor or anybody else right now coming back. I'm more or less looking at the Matt Canada hire internally. And I know I was banging my drum for Anthony Lynn, who's gone. He's had some rumblings here or there, particularly with Seattle, I believe, as filling their opening for an offensive coordinator. So I got some questions here whether or not Matt Canada. We previously said he was somebody that could be targeted. It wasn't somebody maybe that we personally wanted because we're more or less worried about always doing the internal hiring. However, was Matt Canada redshirted a year? Was he already brought in? We made this notion last summer when he was brought on board as a QB coach.
Yep.
He didn't have a QB coach because Randy Fichtner was splitting time as OC and QB coach prior. And we all speculated, this is the guy coming in to take this guy's job, particularly if he doesn't do well. Well, he didn't do well. We did see a spark. We saw a spark week 17. And I'm like, was that Randy Fichtner? Whose fingerprints were on that? Is Matt Canada the right hire? Maybe. You just never know. And I know he's got there's a lot of things that he does a lot differently. Will more or less not only just the right hire, but right fit with Ben Roethlisberger too.
Well, that's the thing I think about. Bringing Canada in a year and letting him work with him lets him know what Ben can and can't do. Lets him know what Ben likes and what Ben doesn't like. It gives him some familiarity. And any good offensive coordinator, any good coach of any stripe, right, is going to tell you, I got to find out what the talents of my guys are and then build around that. In other words, I can't take the square peg and say it's going to go fit in this round hole because that round hole is my offense. And daggone it, I'm Todd Haley, and it's my way or the highway. Doesn't matter if everything fits. And I'm not really trying to disparage Todd Haley, but that's my point.
No, I think a lot of people do that. He does it to himself.
Yeah. So I think that there's some good things that could come of this. If Canada is, as everybody seems to think, remember, he was a hot name last year. People were very interested in Canada and trying to bring him in and infuse his motion and different things into what they do. So the Steelers brought him in. We'll see what happens. Do I hate the hire? No, not at all. Do I love the hire? I don't know. I have to take a step back and wait. I'm not going to know if I love it until I see what happens. And my caveat is this: we thought we'd see a lot of that motiony stuff this year. And what we saw was a bunch of guys sometimes running around, didn't look like they knew what the hell they were doing at times. Motion for motion's sake is not necessarily a good thing, but again, how much of that was Randy just keeping his fingers on what they did and not? We'll see. I like the potential of the
yes,
pick, or of the choice there.
I think that was the Bengals game. The second one where they tried to outsmart themselves too much by trying to say, we're going to get this running game going, we're going to do this. They finally get Ben under center. I think it was too much. I think they mucked around too much from the formula, and somehow they got away from what was working beginning of the season. Sometimes some of that is just you've put it on film and now teams have discovered or figured it out as well. So there's things with keeping it fresh and not becoming too stagnant. And there's many of commenters here, YouTube and otherwise, wherever we are, that have said, they ran the same play. They did this. You could feel, you know what's coming. And that's usually when we know the OC's headed out the door. I said that with Bruce Arians long before we had this show. I said it with Todd Haley when we did have this show, and we've said it with Randy Fichtner. It's you get predictable, and it's not good to telegraph some of this stuff. Get a couple of other coaches here. I don't know that we're going to be able to cover a whole lot of the Tomlin, whether or not he's on. He's not on any hot seat. Let's put it that way. A lot of people are going to be like, well, he won this with the playoff thing and that. I saw the meme. Go back to our website. I wrote about it. We may talk about it in the future. Everything that says a blown fourth quarter lead is pretty much a flat-out lie. There was like one where Sweden, I think, kicks a field goal, and they go up 1 point early in the fourth quarter with like 14 minutes left, and it's like blown fourth quarter lead, and some of the tallies were just bad. And, losing to Joe Flacco was on there 3 times, and it's like, well, Joe Flacco
he's elite, right? I thought he was elite.
As much as I don't like him, he was what that team needed in order to get to AFC title games and win a Super Bowl. And he also got to drive off with a Cadillac or whatever and go to Disney World and call himself a Super Bowl MVP. As much as we want to make fun of him, you can't take any of that away from Joe Flacco. I saw a thing about David Garrard on there with the Jaguars. He made like 3 straight Pro Bowls right after defeating Mike Tomlin in his first year as a head coach. Mike Tomlin reclaimed a Steelers franchise that had a Super Bowl hangover and missed the postseason in Bill Cowher's final year as a head coach. And there was some turnover on that roster too, and there's a lot of things to chew off there. So don't jump into this just right away, folks. These are some episodes that are oncoming. We got a lot of time between now and the NFL draft, and then we got that dead period in June, so we got a lot of these things still to talk about, and we can't fit it all in under an hour or keep it around 40 minutes or whatever we're trying to do this off season. So, but I look at some of Mike Tomlin's peers. I can't remember if I brought this up last show, Brian, but Pete Carroll, early exit from the playoffs here, and he's not had like the most success since the winning the Super Bowl. And that seems to be where everything falls off with a lot of these coaches is when they win a Super Bowl, it's hard to get right back into it. We may see it here with Andy Reid, but a lot of people want to talk about Tomlin with an 8-8 playoff record and things of that nature. And it's just like, let's take a look at the other guys who just lost this weekend. Sean Payton, John Harbaugh. Harbaugh got his first win now since his second win since winning the Super Bowl in 2012. He had one against the Steelers. They had the best record in the league, and he had the league MVP last year, one and done.
Yep.
And then they didn't look too hot this past weekend either. I understand you went up to Buffalo, and it's a whole different world there as far as playing and wind and whatever else. But still,
3 points. 3 points.
3
really?
points.
3 points. 3 points. 3 points.
And this guy and their offensive coordinator is being looked at
because he managed 3 points.
Because he managed 3.
1, 2, 3 points.
Oh, I need a drink here, man. You got me. Got me cooking with the gas right now, as Mad Dog would say. So let me see here. Pete Carroll, and he's been with 3 teams in the NFL. He was with the Jets. He started 6-10, went out of there. 3 years in New England. 10-6, 9-7, 8-8, left there. Seattle Seahawks since 2010. Took him 10 years again because he went to the college ranks for a while. And he started out with some 7-9 seasons, 11-5, 13-3 Super Bowl champions, and they get back 12-4, but do not win the Super Bowl that year. So they have some varied success with good old Pete. Being there for, let me see, he's been coaching 15 years, 11 of those with the Sea Chickens. So, and we We hear about them a lot of times too. But look, man, he let's see. Last year, they won a wild card game, but then they lost the divisional. They lost the wild card game the year before that. Then they didn't qualify for the playoffs the year before that. Every time you make the playoffs, unless you hoist the Lombardi Trophy, you're losing. Your team loses automatically. Automatically. So we've gone from 12 to 14 playoff teams. 13 of those coaches are going to have a loss in the playoffs. And we just said this off air. Unless you're a wild card team that gets to the conference championship, or you're a team with the bye that gets to the Super Bowl, that's the only way your coach is having a winning record in the postseason for that year. Because you might win a game like Harbaugh and Peyton just did, and then you lose the next one. You're 1-1.
Yep.
If you get all the way to the Super Bowl, McDermott right now is 2-0, but if he loses, okay, then he'll be, I guess, 2-1. But again, he's in the championship round. So Mike Tomlin being 8-8 really isn't that big a deal. And of course, I got to pull up Bill Cowher too and see where he's been. But yeah, like guys like Pete Carroll with the Seahawks, he's 10-8, 11-10 all time. I think even when we pulled up Andy Reid's numbers, Andy Reid, let me see. Well, he had all kind of guys because Chuck Noll, you have a few guys like Chuck Noll that have just ungodly numbers. Tony Dungy's a Hall of Famer. He's 9-10. Doesn't even have a winning playoff record with the one Super Bowl under his belt. And guess what? The guy was with both of his teams, 6 years in Tampa, 7 in Indy. He has a 6.68 winning record, 139-69, nice, and during the regular season. During the regular season. Why don't we ever hear anybody say, I think some people do, you look at John Gruden, what's he done lately for how much that he makes? He was a Super Bowl winning coach, and, he's drug out of retirement. He was everybody's hot name every offseason. And he took Tony Dungy's Tampa team, and that's what he hangs his hat on with his Super Bowl trophy. But you never hear that. You don't hear Bill Cowher getting Chuck Noll's players like Greg Lloyd, Dermontti Dawson, Rod Woodson, all these different things. So we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about that. But just something, just an observation that I made based on the old guard, those four guys. One more still left here with Andy Reid, I suppose, hanging in there. And he has a very good shot at maybe potentially repeating. But it's I had Andy Reid's record. Hold on, I was going to pull him up. Oh, Bill Belichick's the other one that's just absolutely nutso. But Andy Reid is 16-14. He was 10-9 with the Eagles, and he's only 6. This isn't including this playoff, so I guess now he would be 7-5 with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, it's rare. What you need to see there is that he's made the postseason. Those losses mean success. It means you made the postseason at least that many times. A lot of fan bases would kill for that.
Oh God, yes. We're very spoiled. We've talked about this in the past, and it really doesn't take that much effort to take a step back and do the math and say, if you get into the playoffs, even if you go and win one game, you're going to lose. If you lose the next one, you're 1-1, right? You got a 500 record in the playoffs. Even if you manage to win 2 games, at the best, you're coming out of that ahead. What if you're a wild card team and you win 2 games to get to the AFC champion or the championship game, and you lose there, you're still 2-1. If you take an exit early, you're 0-1 automatically. But you know how many teams wish they could have been that 0-1? All the ones that didn't make the big dance. So you make a viable point. Except the Eagles.
They wanted the higher draft pick.
Yeah, they didn't want to be in. And I'll tell you, I guess if I was going to be a 5-win team to get in the playoffs, I wouldn't want to be in either.
Well, they weren't going to be in, but it was the Giants that were complaining about it.
So, I'm just enjoying the fact that we won the division and we have a higher draft pick than both the Ravens and the Browns. So,
yeah, absolutely. So,
and we didn't have to throw a game.
Yeah, and I mean, by all means, everybody's like, well, you just love mediocrity. No, I mean, you have no idea what was said between these walls, me or Brian, during that game. I mean, we were upset with it. We're disgusted. We're just as unhappy as everyone else. But at the end of the day, you have a realization that, there's only one team that's going to do it. You kind of hope it's you. the 11-0, you kind of saw the way it was going, and I think the only thing, and this will be another thing to discuss another day here into the future, probably when we examine some of Tomlin's missed the playoffs, 5 times in 14 seasons, the same as Sean Payton. Harbaugh's missed it 4 times in 13, and I had Carroll's up here too, but these guys are all pretty similar, and those are considered to be the guys that are at the upper echelon here of their craft. Of course, Bill Belichick and Andy Reid included in that conversation as well. And maybe even right now, just based on the hardware or how things are going, you probably put them above these guys that are already out of the tournament. At least I would. But it's not to say that any of these guys may not be. Their names are all going to be in the hat when they retire from coaching for a gold jacket in Canton. There's no doubt about
Absolutely.
it. All 6 of them that I just mentioned. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people pass on. They don't see. One more thing to throw on there, since we're going to talk quarterbacks here, and one that was playing last year and didn't have his contract renewed, is Devlin Duck Hodges, and we'll talk about him in a second. But how many games did Mike Tomlin win with him last year? I think it was 3-3. They had. I was bringing him up because of the December slide. It seems like they slid this year in December. Things were falling apart the year before it did, and of course the year before that as well. Ben with the X-ray machine, Josh Dobbs coming in, the whole Oakland thing, Denver missing the playoffs, Mr. Big Checks walking out, needing the Browns to beat the Ravens to maybe eke right in there, and was still going to say this, with the exception of one season with the tiebreaker of the Titans. Had they had 14 teams in the playoffs, or 7 from each conference, that extra spot, since Mike Tomlin was head coach, he'd only have missed the playoffs 1 time. That's one hell of a record, if you ask me. And he's been doing it. A lot of people forget the guys that he limps into the playoffs without. Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown knocked out by Vontaze Burfict. So you go play Peyton Manning in Denver, the place we all dread. Denver, and it seemed like Oakland, don't have to worry about that place anymore. It seems like the worst places to play those AFC West teams,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So, anyways, but I just mentioned Josh Dobbs. I mentioned Duck Hodges. He's had Mason Rudolph. He's had Landry Jones. He's had Byron Leftwich. He's had Charlie Batch. He's had Dennis Dixon. And in fact, last year that he got into the Super Bowl in 2010, they didn't have Ben for the first 4 games of that season. To say that this coach has all of this talent, you tend to forget that Jacksonville Jaguars game is the only playoff game where they had Brown, Bell, and Bryant with Ben all on the field, all at the same time. When they finally got Bell the year before that, he was breaking Franco Harris's record against the Dolphins in the wild card. Then he broke his own record again against the Chiefs the following week, gets hurt in the first quarter AFC Championship against the Patriots. So, these are definitely blows toward, you could say the standard as much as you want. That one playoff, even without Bell, they didn't have D'Angelo Williams either. Jordan Todman and Fitzgerald Toussaint. I mean, how much more of a standard? You can only do so much and be a Super Bowl winning team. Again, a lot of it has to deal with survival. So, but that's the reason why I'm bringing up Duck Hodges, was his contract wasn't renewed, Brian. And, he just put out a statement saying it was, fun, quack, all the respect for living out his dream, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, I got it here if I could pull it up real quick. The exact words from a Devlin Duck Hodges. Of course, I've got some other thing. Pittsburgh, thank you for the opportunity and the ability to live out my dream. Nothing but love, quack. And, he didn't get the futures contract. I don't know what the Steelers are going to be doing with the quarterback situation moving forward. They don't know right now. We're going to speculate on that with Ben and others. So, right now I wouldn't read too much into it unless he gets picked up from another team. You could still see him at training camp maybe as another guy still competing. Whether they have expanded practice squad rules that carry over next year, we don't know. There's a whole lot of unknowns, so there's probably just not space for a fourth quarterback at this or extra quarterback at this time. We don't know if Dobbs will be back either.
No, and I mean, look, as we've said, it was a fun story while it was going on. It was exciting for everybody, and then people lost their mind. It's okay. We appreciate the Duck and what he gave us, but yeah, if you thought that he was a long-term solution to anything, come on.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So, Well, I think that's just about it, Brian. I know one of our shorter shows, we're trying to keep this so we don't burn ourselves out, don't burn you, the audience, out, because there's only so much Steelers football you're going to listen to when there's not Steelers football to watch every weekend. But, yeah.
Probably. Although, then again, you could be us, and we would listen to it all the time.
We would, but there's only so much we could chew off right now, and I can't go into the hour-long topics of whether or not Ben will be back. Which free agents do you sign? What's your draft targets? The whole thing with Mike Tomlin, I just abbreviated. I've got some really major stuff here, including the inheriting Cowers team. I hate to tell everyone, aside from the big names, a couple of those guys, Hall of Famers that were drafted, all first-rounders, such as Ben, Troy, Heath. You got Casey, the big snack, Hampton there. You got a couple of guys such as that carried over, but there were only like maybe 7 guys, and that includes Greg Warren, the long snapper, that were on all 3 of those teams that played in the Super Bowls, 2 of those with Tomlin. So there's a couple of carryovers from the Super Bowl hangover team in 2006, and that'll be another fun thing to talk about for another day, and hopefully you'll see it up on the website when I get off my lazy butt and get all of it ready. So anyways, we appreciate you folks for listening and supporting the show. Brian, thanks for joining me once again.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for the folks who have been trying to get me over 1,000 Twitter followers. I'm still not quite there yet, but I appreciate the follows. And if you want to watch a bunch of hiking stuff for the next 4 months, you can go over there and follow me, because I'll be talking about it. We certainly appreciate everybody that's been listening and following in the comments, even when we don't agree with them. We still like to have them. Love the interaction and all that stuff.
Most of the interaction, and people are kind of flagrant. I've been close to hitting the remove. I've let a few of them go in there because I'm like, you know what? I don't mind the difference of opinion. It's just whenever you say these idiots don't know what they're talking about, you're going to make me dig out some stuff that's going to make you look stupid. And sometimes I just let it go, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. You can call me stupid because I don't have the time and energy to waste trying to change one person's mind. You're probably already set in your ways, yelling at the clouds. So, like Brian,
that's my gig, and cut it out. It's
yes.
my thing.
Stop
yelling at the clouds is my thing.
Brian, thanks for joining me once again. That's Brian, by the way. My name's Joe. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, we wish all of our viewers and listeners out there the best, and we encourage you to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.